we have a quorum now, but a couple of members may have to leave and that may remove a quorum. So while we have the quorum, let's get going here.
Yep.
I'm going to order the meeting at 9 o'clock, and we will start with attendance in the room and then go online. Mike Guida, please.
Mike Guida, CORC.
Holly Hahn, Office of the General Counsel.
Dave Dolan, Facilities Management.
David Porter, CORC.
Myers, Construction Purchasing.
Bill Hugel, CORC.
Jayzias, AECOM.
Dorothy Banaszewski, Facilities Construction.
John?
John Levinson, Rel Enterprises, representing Turkovich, Architects, and Warden Smith, General Contractor.
Michael O'Neill, Proctor Construction. Bob Lick, Office of Inspector General.
Marissa Gideon, Building Code Services.
John Loki, Road Link Architecture and Construction.
Okay, go ahead and do our online people.
Virginia Ferris, CORC.
Yes.
Leah Gaines, CORC.
Ah, good. Thank you, Leah.
Frederick McCoy, CORC.
Tom Berger, CORC.
Michael Gelfand, CORC, and aren't you lucky my conflict canceled?
Ah, cool.
Go.
Yeah, we get you for the whole meeting. All right. Lou Doctor's not on today,
Yes, not yet.
and neither is Frank Simon, I guess.
No,
And Sam?
Sam's not on yet either.
Okay, but all three of those said they were coming. Okay.
You can as well.
All right. Thank you for attendance. I don't have much on Chairman's report. Dorothy, if you could just flash up that picture I sent. I'll give you a quick update on our Seminole Ridge project. That's the roof system, all finished and inspected and ready for plywood sheathing, all sitting in the shop as one assembled house. We got delayed because of COVID and the normal supply stream issues that everybody's running into. So typically we would ship the finished house, this finished house, first week in December. That's not going to happen. So we're most likely now around April by the time this house gets finished. That's the teacher all the way at the right side there, Rick Turkovich. This is his last year in the program. He's retiring. And fortunately, I was able to convince the principal and the superintendent to hire his replacement and have them working alongside of him this whole year so that the new person is very familiar with the program. That person comes from the stucco business, so he has construction experience. And he's been a high school volleyball coach, girls volleyball coach for like the last 10 years. So he's familiar with students. So it should be a nice, smooth transition.
That's great.
So that's it for that update. That's all I have. Anyone with a conflict of interest for anything being reviewed today? Not hearing anything online or in the room. Lou Doctor's not on yet?
No, he's not.
Okay,
He did, oh, here he is. I was saying, he did file a report last month
right.
with the board.
So Lou is on?
Yes, he is.
He did.
Ah, okay. See if there are any questions. I doubt it. So while he's logging on, we're up to staff updates.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. I have one update to give. It's more a general thing, and then I have a topic which I'll get to when I do my report, which is when we're going to meet next. When I do my in progress report. But what I wanted to let everybody know, under the leadership and direction of our Chief Operating Officer, Mr. Sanchez, we've really had we've had a nice transition in the entire operations division, not just the construction side. But as you all can recognize, we all work hand in hand on virtually everything, whether it's maintenance or ECS or building code services, and even food service and transportation. We often all work together on our items. We held an operational excellence symposium about 2 weeks ago, September 26th. It was literally, it was a couple days before the hurricane came through. It was a Monday, and it was a day when school was off. So we had Dwyer High School. For the record, I want to thank Corey Brooks for allowing us to use Dwyer High School, but we had a good symposium that included not only district staff, a lot of our operational people. But it also included a lot of our vendors, our contractors, our architects, and some of our other departments, so that they get to learn a little bit about us as well. It was a great opportunity to really learn and teach, because many of the people that were on some of the committees were district people, and letting everybody else know how they were. So some of the things we talked about were supply chain challenges and strategies, a big focus on excellence in customer service, because again, from an operational standpoint, we're not what's important in the school district in the grand scheme of things. Yes, we do important work, but we support the students. So for us, customer service is everything. Yes, CORC here, we all work on making sure we do right by the projects, but in all essence, we are about customer service. So that was a big focus at our symposium. One of the other ones was employee retention. I mean, it got down into the weeds to understand that, just like everybody else in this room, we're having challenges maintaining staffing and making sure that we get good quality people. And we still managed to do it. I mean, look, we have Marissa here, and she's an incredible talent. Welcome, Marissa.
Thank you.
A couple of the other ones, school design and construction, best practices for our facility renewals and our core expansions. That was well attended by a lot of our contractors and architects. And by the way, this was primarily put on by our district staff. I had 4 people in our office: James Farrell, Judd Adams, Aaron Howard, and Angel Garcia, all helped to facilitate these items. We had some a session on some of the district protocols that we have in place that people don't really know about. So it was an opportunity to learn, and mastering district technology tools. It was one of the topics we had on just moments before we started the meeting, talking about how technology has become such an important part of how we go about doing our day-to-day business. We can have Google Meets. We have a lot of our work done electronically and saved and stored electronically. So making that more effective. So for us, it was a great symposium, and we're really excited. We'd like to do this again. We're going to do it again probably in the spring. And I know our team immediately turned and wanted to start working on the next one. So it was really exciting. And I'd like to thank many of you guys that were able to come and be a part of it, some of the contractors and whatnot. Without you guys, we couldn't do all what we do. So it was a great experience, and I look forward to doing more of these. And that's it for.
So we're not going to go back to having 3-inch thick paper binders of court documents for our meetings?
Wow. We know how much you love that.
Prior to your time, and some of us older court members will know that they used to get delivered to our homes or offices.
Yeah.
3-inch thick paper binders.
Yeah, they tell me about the big binders.
I was hoping I had kept one, because they were literally that thick of all the paper.
Mr. Gelfand?
Yeah. Michael.
Yes, what would you say are the 3 top items or learning items that the district learned as a result of the feedback at this meeting? It sounds like an excellent meeting, but just let us know what are the top 3.
Well, Dorothy, do you have any thoughts on it? Because I know I
The
talk way
boss
too much.
passing the buck.
No, well, I think there are a lot of items learned about how we process our pay applications, how we process our schedule of values, how we establish our schedule of values, and knowing in advance all the accounting challenges that we have. One of the things that you guys don't necessarily have to hear about is I play a very close role in Leanne Evans's world, in the treasury world. And what everybody sees too late in the game is if we don't set up the schedule of values right, so that we know how to report to the state cost per student stations, as well how we borrow, how we fund our projects, we can't do it without the contractor. And what we found in the past is we used to just say, go ahead, give us your schedule values, whatever. And then at the end of the project, we're trying to recall, oh my God, pay application 2. Why did we say we needed that money? And we can't remember what those causes were, what the uses of that money were. So we now have learned a lot from some of those things and have established that with our contractors early on. It may stink for them now. It may take them a little time to break out their schedule of values, but boy, it makes us a whole lot more efficient. And it also has gone to show the state that we actually think about what their expectations are, that their requirements we appreciate and are willing and able to comply with. Leanne, I see you popped on. I know that was one of the topics that we talked about that I thought was important.
Yeah, with the cost per student station, that whole process is required by statute to be audited by the Florida Auditor General. And we just went through the first audit, and they were very complimentary in the process that we used. It's also been recommended any school district that's borrowing. There's 3 key law firms in the state that work with school districts on borrowing, and all of them are referring us back to they're referring them back to us. In fact, I had a conference call yesterday with Putnam Schools that's getting ready to do a GEO bond and talk to them about cost per student station, how we manage it, how we pay the bills, how that works. And Dave, you should expect a phone call from their head of facilities in the next day or two. So yeah, we've got a really good process, and I appreciate Dave and his team working with us to try to put that in place. And as he said, it's more work up front, but it makes it so much easier at the end of the project to be able to see how the money was spent, what was exempt from student station cost and what was not. So definitely a team effort there.
And it is a big deal. I know it sounds silly, but I will, there's no contractors in the room that I will call out, but there are contractors who at the end of the project, they can't remember what we did 12 months ago. Like they can't remember the details of what was that line item you drew on pay application 2. Well, unfortunately, we need to know because we do have to break out those costs. Some of the things you guys have heard us talking about, if it's outside the building, it's not relevant to cost per student station. Well, some of the work is done by the same vendor who's doing work outside the building as they're doing inside the building. Well, they need to break those costs out, and they can't just put in a line item and say, 1,200 feet of underground sanitary sewer pipe. 1,200 feet really was 800 feet of outside work and 400 feet of under slab work. Well, the 400 gets attributed, the 800 doesn't. And that's the challenge we have. That's why we have to work so hard with our contractors up front so they understand the rules, and it makes our world a whole lot easier.
Do our contracts tell the contractors up front that they're going to have to do that breakout homework?
We make it a point of discussing that earlier on, but it's a good point. It's certainly an appreciated.
Yeah, I mean, if that's going to be a standard process, I would think that's something that, should be something that's contractually required instead of them saying, yeah, okay, here's all of our paperwork in a shoebox, you deal with it.
Right. Well, and they do, we as I say, and I don't mean to blow sunshine with the contractors, but the contractors we work with by and large, they get it. They understand that the effort that's expected of them when they sign on, like when we do our negotiations with them, they are made aware of the level of effort that's going to go into their project controls portion, so that when they're establishing their GMPs, they know how much, do they need extra costs on their in-office staffing.
Yeah, I just think it can be a one-liner that's put in there that, contractor will be responsible for breaking out indoor and outdoor costs, regardless of the trade that's doing the work, for cost per student station
and
purposes.
Yeah, and even finance purposes.
That's it, just a one-liner. Then you've got some contractual.
We certainly can certainly take that into revisement. Yeah.
We could probably have some language and then indicate the contract that this project is subject to student station cost, and this section of the contract applies. Not every project is subject to that. It's only the ones that we're replacing student stations or building new student stations. So it's new schools, modernizations, and additions. So it's not the facility renewals, but that's something we can work on with legal.
So when we do a facility renewal, if we replace all the sanitary piping, to use that as an example, It doesn't matter whether it's outside or under the
No.
slab. We
No,
then don't.
No, and it's a lot of work to do that. So we only ask them to break it out if it's subject to student station costs. So again, it's new schools, modernizations if we're replacing buildings, and additions. So our last projects are already under contract. We already know who the contractors are. The last ones, I'm looking at the sheet on my wall, Windbrook, Pine Grove, and West Riviera. I think we already have pre-con on those. So the contractors are already know and already aware, and we don't have any more coming for several years after that. But we could certainly look at that language. It's better to have it and do it while it's fresh in our minds and we're thinking of it. And that way it's ready when we start building schools again. But we have a few years. The next new school isn't scheduled to fund for construction until 2029. So we've got a break between new construction for a little while.
But I mean, I'm on the Riviera Beach Prep project. That's getting in a 20,000 square foot addition. Wouldn't that fall under that?
It would. I'm still waiting for final notice on what that project will be and what the historic Roosevelt High will be. You're correct. So those two, if we build new buildings, those new buildings would be subject to student station costs. The renovated buildings are not. So we actually break the project into multiple project numbers so that we can track which projects are subject to it and which ones are not.
Okay, very good.
Yep.
All right.
So again, as I mentioned, that our symposium was an opportunity to kind of get people together. Sometimes it was about getting the contractors to know how we at the district work. Sometimes it was about us learning how each other works. I mean, we had a good session on employee retention and best practices. The customer service, we talked about Lean Six Sigma. I mean, nowadays the margins that we go through are so tight. For us, it was really important to start talking about our efficiencies, how we can improve ourselves incrementally. And I found that was it was quite an interesting session. So all in all, we got a lot out of it, and I think the challenge is the next one, coming up with better things and better opportunities to learn from on the next one. Yes, sir.
Michael.
I'm muted.
Michael Gelfand. Are you muted?
He's muted.
You're muted.
I see Ms. Gaines has her hand up as well.
Go ahead, Leah.
Yes, I was just, I just wanted to remind us, I'm not sure we've gotten past we might lose a quorum. Do we need to move to the items we need to vote on, then we can come back to the reports?
No, I think we're okay now. Yeah, we're okay if a couple of people leave, but thanks for the reminder.
Very good.
That's good. No problem. Good.
Very good. Okay, bye-bye.
Michael Gelfand, still got your hand up. We can't hear you if you're talking, Michael.
You're still muted, Michael.
Okay.
Dorothy, I noticed a couple of people don't seem to have had the link to today's meeting. What I might suggest, sometimes when you send those out, like right after this meeting, if people don't save it, it goes down in their inbox and they don't get to it. What might work better is if you wanted to send out a meeting reminder very soon after this meeting, send the link out maybe like a week before.
I send the invites out 2 weeks before, and then there's a reminder that goes out the day before.
Really? Okay. And people are just not looking at their inbox, I guess. Okay.
It's like 20 hours before, because if I did it 24 hours before, it would confuse people thinking it was the day before. So yesterday, about 11 o'clock, the reminders went out.
Okay.
So I'm not sure what else to do.
Yeah. Okay. Michael, you still have your hand up, but we can't hear you. So I don't know. There must be a technical issue. All right. You signed off and signed back on. All right. Lou Doctor, you're on now. Can you do our CORC report again?
Lou's frozen.
Oh, no, he's not frozen. Lou, can you hear us? Yeah, you're still muted.
We can't hear you.
Can you unmute? Can't unmute.
Is everybody muted?
I don't know what's going on. We heard Leanne.
I'm here.
We heard Tom.
Now we hear Lou. I think so.
No, that was Tom.
Can't hear you, Lou.
While you're
Virginia, you
waiting
have your
for the
hand up. Go ahead.
others, while you're waiting for the others, may I make a comment?
Yes.
Dorothy, I just don't know what happens to, if you send it out 2 days ago, I search everywhere and cannot find the link. I find if I respond to it, it disappears, or some other reason it disappears. I'm using the Windows Mail app. So I don't know what the problem is, and I apologize for constantly asking you to resend it.
It's okay.
Not a problem. I will send out specific emails for the next one.
Just a tip, if you just type in like her name, it will.
I do that.
Oh, and it's still, you still
Yes,
can't find it?
I know very well how to search.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's what I do. It works for me. I don't know. Okay.
Yeah, it brings up some old things from Dorothy, but it didn't bring it up. This one up.
All right.
So,
Michael Gelfand, can we hear you now? If you're talking, we can't. And Lou's got the same problem.
Lou, you may want to leave and come back.
Yeah, Michael's done that twice.
Yeah.
You may want to disconnect Lou and then rejoin the meeting. Okay, try that.
Or you may want to call in along with, and just, he's already muted, so he could call in.
Right.
That way he can talk.
Use the chat box.
Yep. Okay, we are moving along here. We'll find out from Lou if he can do a quick report again. We are ready for public comments. Any public comments? Seeing none.
Am
All
I
right,
back now, Dave?
You're now. We got you back.
All righty. My apologies. If I can just follow up for a moment on the contract issue. I'd suggest that staff look at a similar to pay when paid provision if our funding is dependent on that documentation. And also, Dave, one additional follow-up question is, were there any particular vendor concerns that rose to the top that district learned?
From your meeting.
Pay faster. And
I said new items.
Fair enough. That is a good point. And I'm going to say, because I have to try to defend myself and our honor as a whole. Our team has done a much better job. We've dramatically increased how we go about processing our pay applications, and while still maintaining the same level of quality control checks. It still goes through 6 or 7 people to get processed for payment before it actually heads over to Treasury and whatnot. But I have some people that bird dog, and I guess that's my nice way of saying it. I have some other choice words as to the people who are nagging me to sign things pretty much every hour of the day. So they don't let them sit in my inbox for more than an hour or so, and I'll get nagged to sign them. So we are processing quicker, but and our goal, our obligation is to make payment within 30 days. Contractually, it's in our contract. We have to make payment within 30 days. Everybody else in the private industry is getting like 15-day, and that's ultimately for us, or at least for now, that's our goal, is to try to bring it down to where we can do it in 15 days. I don't know if that's possible, but we're going to do what we can.
Ben.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to the concept of paying more quickly. We've had a lot of people ask over the years for us to start paying with ACH, and we are so far behind with that. But we did it intentionally. There is an inordinate amount of fraud when it comes to companies providing somebody like the school district their banking information and for us to pay them. So we have found a solution to that. It's a supplier portal that we have implemented, and we're currently doing a pilot with construction companies. The construction area is going to go first. And we have a pilot that's running, and some of the contractors are already being paid electronically. And this is new news to Dave. We had our first fraudulent attempt at the account today. A contractor that we invited to join, somebody had a fake email address and sent it in to us, and the service we're using validates all the information. They're checking to make sure the address, the tax ID number, the bank account, all that information really belongs to that company. And so we were able to already catch one, and we're just in a pilot phase. So fraud when it comes to ACH is incredible. And I'm really glad that we waited to get a service that could validate banking information before we went live. So, Dave, I can let you know who it was that had an attempted hack last night. But it just goes to show we were right in waiting and being patient to find the right service. But we should be able to start paying all of our vendors with ACH over the course of the year. It will take time to get everyone into the system and uploaded. But if for contractors that are on the phone, you'll get an invitation at some point. We're rolling it out gradually to make sure everything's working right. And that's certainly going to speed up the process and should make everybody really happy. We'll stop sending paper checks around. So that's coming very soon. It's huge. I wasn't going to even mention it to CORC, but when you started talking about speeding things up, it really does fit right in there. And I'm really happy that we're starting the process with the construction division. So they'll be the first ones to take advantage of that new service.
Okay. Virginia.
Yes, I was just wondering what the cost per student station is now.
Probably varying.
It does, and they come out every every 6 months, right? We're usually
the last one came out in July, and it depends. The cost per student station is it's a PDF, but it looks like a spreadsheet, and there's amounts for each level, elementary, middle, and high, and there's a monthly rate depending on when the school's going to open. So if you give me a second, I had it up yesterday and I can give you a number. Actually,
do the ones that are opening, let's say in August, in this coming August, like the Grove Park, Melaleuca, those costs for student stations, so that we at least have a specific date. While you're looking that up,
I've got it right in front of me.
Okay.
So the ones that are opening in August of 2023, the cost factor for a high school is, let's see, make sure it's $38,245. Middle school is $29,444, and an elementary school is $27,266.
Virginia, it looks like you went muted.
What happens if we overshoot that?
Well, that's exactly the discussion I had with the other school district yesterday.
Yes.
If the project is on our referendum list, then we can go back to the school board and to this sales tax oversight committee and ask to tap sales tax to make the principal and interest payments. The only way you can exceed student station costs is if you're borrowing to build the school, which we typically are doing that. And then for the portion that exceeds student station cost, you have to make the debt service payment out of sales tax or impact fees if it's impact fee eligible. Ours are not impact fee eligible, Grove Park and Melaleuca. So we actually went to ISOC and to the board to get permission to set money aside from the sales tax to make those debt service payments. We're very lucky to have that flexibility. The school district I was talking to is issuing GEO bonds, and you can't do COPS with GEO bonds. So they just have to be in compliance, and there's no way around it.
Thank you.
So Leanne, as an example for Grove Park, I think wasn't that like one or 2 million that we had to go over cost per student station as an example?
Yeah, we actually brought that back. I think we're up to 4 million on Grove Park because of the addition. So it's 4 million extra for Grove Park, and I think it was 1 million extra for Melaleuca. Maybe it was 2. But that went to the board and to ISOC to be approved.
Right. So the process would be for Grove Park, you can pay for everything other than the extra 4 million with sales tax dollars, but then you have to pay for the 4 million with borrowing.
No, you borrow for the whole thing.
Okay.
And then when we're making our debt service payments, our principal and interest payments, those have to be paid with the sales tax. So since our sales tax ends, I think it's going to end at the end of 2025 instead of 26. When we did the amortization schedule that you might see for your mortgage or a car loan, we had to break out how much is due to the excess funds on Melaleuca and Grove Park, and those are being paid from sales tax in the first 2 years, so that it's paid before the sales tax expires.
So you're still allowed to pay the extra 4 million with sales tax dollars.
You pay for the whole thing with COPS. We borrow for the whole thing.
I'm sorry, right, with
Yeah,
COPS.
pay for
Right,
the
right,
whole
right.
thing with COPS, and then we make the principal and interest payments with the sales tax.
Dorothy, I think Frank somehow is presenting. Do you have the ability to stop that?
Frank Simon?
Yes.
Okay, any other questions, comments for Dave on staff updates?
We've got Lou back.
Yes. Oh, yeah, Lou, you're back. We can hear you. You're muted, I think. Say something. Yeah, you're muted.
Saying something.
Okay.
And for those of you, if you can even use the chat, some of you might be able to use the chat box to, if you have a comment or question or something like that. The other thing is what Mr. Gelfand was doing, I believe, maybe got in using the phone number.
I think I'm back now.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah,
Right.
you're back. Good.
Lou, our only question is, can you do our report for this month? You can nod your head. Okay, thank you very much. All right, we are down to consent agenda. All right, it's down the list here. FC1,
I'd like to pull it.
okay? But anybody else say poll FC1?
Yes.
Michael Dell.
Michael? FC2,
Pull.
okay. FC3. PC1. Okay. PC2. Okay, we had FC1, FC2 pulled. Go ahead, Virginia.
I move the unpulled items forward without objection.
Sam's on now too.
Need a second?
Second.
Second. All right, I think that was Tredrick that got in there first. All right, go ahead and poll us, Dorothy.
All right. Bill Hukill,
Yes.
David Porter,
Yes.
Frank Simon,
Yes.
Leah Gaines,
Yes.
Lou Doctor,
Nodded his head.
Michael Gelfand,
Yes.
Michael Guida,
Yes.
Sam Shannon,
Yes.
Tom Berger,
Yes.
Traddock McCoy,
Yes.
Virginia Ferris.
Yes.
Okay, we will start with FC1. Mike Guida, go ahead.
Can you pull up the item 5?
Yep.
On the W.T. Dwyer High School.
Perfect. That's Dorothy's.
So I see that it says replace exhaust fans in 4 locations and replace all water isolation valves.
Yes, sir.
Just off the bat, just seems kind of high for 4 exhaust fans. So my question is, you know, how many water valves is included in this?
Good question.
I had also pulled this, but the staff responses got me to unpull it. What I think, Mike, is
Staff
part
response.
of the extra is the inaccessibility to get to the fans. So it wasn't just the cost of the fans. It seemed like a very complicated, way they had to get to the fans. So that would have just increased the actual direct cost of a fan, I would think, is that extra labor. But
I had the breakdown and now I don't remember what the breakdown was. Part of it is the water valves and there are water isolation valves basically at all of the restrooms. So for every building, we've got 8 buildings and probably 2 sets of restrooms at most of those buildings. So we have probably about 12 sets of isolation valves. One of them was running about 24,000 and I believe, I can't remember which was which. The exhaust fans was the balance of that. So I believe it was about 14,000
You got some breakdown and it kind of made sense in the breaks.
The original building had no separation of water valves, so all the water, if you needed to work on a toilet, you had to shut the whole building down?
No, they had isolation valves. They had the old gate valves
Ah, these are replacing.
sealed behind the walls. So when we went in there and were doing the restrooms and they went to turn the water off, they were leaking. So we replaced them all with new ball valves.
And made them accessible?
Correct.
Yeah, no, we're coming back up.
Other than sledgehammer accessible? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
That it, Mike?
Yeah, that's it for that. But then I also want to pull the Wellington High School. Again, it seemed excessive. I didn't know, it says 7 classroom pod building, so
Wellington Elementary School.
how many pods are there?
There, in a pod, there are 4 classrooms.
Also Dorothy's project.
Also my project, yes.
There's 4 classrooms in a pod and there's 7 pods?
Yes. 28 classrooms.
Plus the hallway in between. I'm thinking the pods have a common hallway in between.
They do have a common hallway. The hallway lights were not replaced. It was only the classroom lights.
And it's that control module that's needed, especially the relay that goes in every fixture to get it to turn on when the emergency generator turns on, correct?
Correct. There's a relay there. The modules that they specified did not tie into the emergency generator. So the lights worked. When they inspected them, it appeared that they were working, but when the generator kicked on, they were not transferring the power to the emergency lights.
Did the lights have the relay in them already, or they just weren't wired properly? Just is it, let's see, required.
So was it fixed? So things operate the way they're supposed to?
The modules have been ordered.
Oh, okay,
Installed yet.
okay.
They had about an 8-week lead time on getting these modules.
Was part of this cost, the cost of the modules?
Yes, most of the cost is the cost of the modules.
Okay. And what about the labor to install them? That'll be extra?
That was included in this price?
Was, okay.
Yes.
All right. So this price covers making everything work the way it should?
Yes.
Okay,
It just, the majority of the cost is the modules itself.
right. Mike Guida, while you're looking that up, Michael Gelfand, you had pulled this too.
Yes, the Melaleuca kitchen. Thank you for the follow-up on that. What overall is anticipated to be the additional expense? Is that 95 plus the 22? Does the 95 include the 22? Is there anything else that's anticipated on that?
The 22 is just for the design. The construction is running right around 350,000, but we had an allowance put into the GMP. So yes, there will be a new change order. The new change order will be for about 95,000, and that should include everything. That should be all of the additional cost.
That was in Dorothy's follow-up, Michael, that you may or may not have gotten to.
No, that's what he was saying. He did see that and he could recognize the 95. He wanted to make sure that there was no other cost beyond the 95. Was there something else we haven't told about? And that's a good point. And what Dorothy's indicated is that'll be the end all of the costs.
I do also have a follow-up concern on the significant increase in price on this from what was originally budgeted. Is there anything in particular that leads to this?
My guess would be, and I'm not answering for staff, but from a budget and a guess to actual hard drawings.
Or I'm sorry, I missed the first few words of what he had said.
It's, many of these additions are relatively marginal. This is very large in terms of percentage and absolute dollar amount. And I'm inquiring as to what is understood to be the reason for that.
The 100,000 increase. from budget to act.
No, then you're absolutely right. It was an allowance because, and James Farrell could probably give a better timeline, but I know distinctly that we gave them notice that and I want to say it's like January, that we were even going to go this route where food service said, no, we want to have a full kitchen and full serving hot food every day, all the time. It was about January when we gave that notification to the architect and the contractor. February was when our GMP came in. So they didn't have time to put the drawings together to and identify what it was going to look like. They had a ballpark. They had a chance to take some idea, and that's where we came up with a $250,000 allowance because they knew how much the modular was going to cost. They knew some general numbers on how much it was going to be to build it out, general. And unfortunately, they were doing so without any physical plans. The plans didn't come until later, and that's where this additional cost came from.
At what point would we require an additional bid for something like this?
Well, that's why we did an allowance. We knew the scope. We knew that it was a certain cost. The timing involved with this, because it was literally done, I would say February, and we had to open up the holding school in August. The expectation was to push this through, get work done. That's why the allowance was established. There is experience because we are working on 45 other modular classrooms as part of that holding school GMP. So adding an additional modular and building it out was in line with the scope that they were already working on. And that's why this allowance was simply a set dollar value rather than a standalone bid after the fact. Between the timing and the fact that it was the same scope as what was previously in the GMP. Are you muted, Michael?
Sorry about that. How many holding sites do we have now?
Holding sites? Well, right now we have two, one with modular classrooms. That's the Malaluca Holding School at Crestwood.
Right.
But we also have a holding school at Lincoln Elementary. The second story of Lincoln is the Grove Park Holding School.
So we're not looking at adding kitchens to any other holding school sites then. All right. And this has already been implemented and is now up and running?
It is.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it. No other questions on this.
Mike Guida?
I have an apology for not understanding, but is the kitchen built already?
Yeah.
Okay, so they're going back and basically presenting documents back to the school board.
Right. This was we had basically had 3 months to build the entire modular campus. And as I mentioned, the timing of that required that we build that kitchen out.
Okay. All right, so going back to item 2, Wellington, I have no further questions. I appreciate that.
Question I've got, talking about the holding schools. Now that we've had a couple of months of school, how has Melaleuca worked out and the kitchen? And how has Lincoln worked out for Grove Park? I mean, they're functioning fine, or there's a bunch of problems?
No, there's no problems. Knock on wood, right?
Yeah.
In the beginning, there were questions and challenges on locks and sequencing of how people get around things, because like at the holding school at Crestwood, they're using 7 or 8 of the classrooms inside of Crestwood proper, as well all those 45 modulars. Those classrooms are for like the 5th graders. Like they have 5th grade classes in there that are closer to the 6th, 7th, and 8th that are in Crestwood. And so those kids still have to transition from the main building out to the portables where the kitchen, cafeteria, media center, things like that are all held. So there were logistical challenges like that up front, but they're all, knock on wood, they're all remedied. the way I always look at it is I have really good project managers. I have really good SPAs, and they're at the beck and call to a certain extent of the principals to make sure, are they having problems? And between James and Judd, James Farrell and Judd Adams, running both Malaluca and Grove Park, they're very well in tune with the concerns. And if there was something wrong, we long heard about it. So
You're not getting daily calls from the principals then?
not at
No,
all.
that's good.
Not at all.
Good.
And the regionals are playing a big role in it too. The regional superintendents, they want to make sure that we're addressing the school's needs, that there's not any overall hindrances to the educational process.
Okay. Okay, on FC1 then, if there's no other questions, I need a motion to go forward.
Move to go forward without objection.
Okay, need a second?
Second.
All right, who is that, Sam?
Sam.
Okay. Any other discussion, questions? All right, Dorothy Paulus, please.
Bill Hookio,
Yes.
David Porter,
Yes.
Frank Simon,
Yes.
Leah Gaines,
Yes.
Lou Doctor, Michael Gelfand,
Yes.
Mike Guida.
Yeah.
Sam Shannon,
Yes.
Tom Berger,
Yes.
Patrick McCoy,
Yes.
and Virginia Paris.
Yes.
Okay, FC2, Mike Guida.
Can I interrupt for a second, please?
Yes.
Because this is probably going to take us to my cutoff, I'm leaving. Just want to say goodbye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks for being there. But Mike Guida.
I go to page 11 or 10. I see to the schedule of values. Why does it say draft?
Because this is the draft pay application.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead, you want to explain it better?
Official thing? I don't know. When I see draft, I don't think it's official for the package.
This is not the actual copy that would necessarily get processed through. Like when we're doing closeout of a project, it's an obligation to show the draft final pay application to show what it is. The actual, you notice that Dave Dolan's signature up in the top right there where it says Chief Facilities, you don't see my signature up there because that's not the official copy that's going for payment. It's required to have a draft version in our board package because we're presenting to the board and saying, we've reconciled everything and everything's good. They wanted to see it, I guess, years past, long before I got here. This stipulation got added that they wanted to see a draft of the schedule of values to show that everything was lined up properly. Hence the draft. Once this is approved by the board, then we're allowed to process the final version, which has to, required to be exactly
signed by you.
And normally we don't put the draft on there. But normally when the contractor submits it to us, we don't have the SPA signature and the architect's signature on it. So it's not ready for processing. In this case, they had actually signed it, and I just wanted to make it clear that this is not approved until it goes to the board and is approved by the board.
All right.
Yeah, that's from a sequencing standpoint. We can't process it until we have board approval, till we have Tom Hogarth sign off on the CC kind of thing. So there are stipulations on the actual processing of the final payment before we get there.
That was it?
That was it.
That was an easy one. Go ahead and make a motion then.
I make a
Move to
motion
go
to,
forward without objection.
We'll take yours as a second, Virginia. Michael had already started the motion.
Oh,
so
wonderful, wonderful.
That's okay. Motion by Michael, second by Virginia. Any questions or discussion? All right, Polish, please, Dorothy.
Bill Hookio,
Yes.
David Porter,
Yes.
Frank Simon,
Yes.
Leah Gaines,
Yes.
Lou Doctor. Lou?
Nod your head, Lou.
Nod.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Michael Gelfand,
Yes.
Mike Guida,
yes.
Sam Shannon,
Yes.
Chadrick,
Yes.
Virginia.
Yes.
We're good.
Okay. By the way, our room is safe again, so if anybody actually wants to come to the next meeting, we'll be here.
And what's really cool, by the way, is right now, if you're in the room, we have those old projector screens pulled down from the ceiling. But what you might be able to see on the camera is off to the side, there's 2 giant smart boards that will be installed. So we will actually have some even cooler technology instead of projections, hopefully, but maybe by the next meeting. Well, actually, it's probably most likely by the next meeting when I get to my stuff.
Now we'll be able to watch the Super Bowl in high definition in the room.
There you go.
All right.
There you go.
Okay, we are down to in progress FCA work.
Okay. All right. Again, I will try to zip through this, but I will stop at one point because I do have a topic that I'd like to bring up for discussion, and so we'll get right into it. Here's our numbers for our progress. What you'll notice is, unfortunately, the top numbers, my fault, I couldn't get the numbers updated. These are the same numbers that we showed last month. I will get updated numbers on how much we've generated and how much we've expended. As you can see, we've still got a little bit of work to get back into in the line with the amount of money that's come in and the amount of money we spend out. But you can see that we continue to have strong diversity participation for both contractors and designers. Okay, next.
Before you go on to that, Leanne is still on?
I believe so.
Yeah, Leanne, you there?
Yes, I am. I need to give them updated numbers.
Yeah, no. I just wanted to update.
I fall for that one.
No. I just wanted to update CORC in terms of what Leanne is seeing, and I'll let her chime in terms of sales tax revenue. And that the tax looks like, if we keep going with the economy, may end a year early instead of getting that extra year. So Leanne, I'll let you explain that further.
Yeah, the sales tax revenue has been coming in. We're at 125% of our projected revenue at this point. So I'm updating projections every month as to where I think we'll be. And there is a provision in the interlocal agreement, in the ordinance, that states that if we were to hit a certain threshold in September of any year, that we would notify Department of Revenue that we would stop the tax. And the tax can only stop the end of a calendar year. It can't stop in the middle of the year. So unless something changes, if it continues to come in, even at the amount, I've gone through and said, even if we get just the amount we got for the last year annually moving forward, we would be ending the tax a year early. I keep hearing over and over again that we're on the verge of recession and there's a lot of negative things out in the economy. So that can certainly change. That's why I update it every month. But it's something we're watching right now. We are well ahead of where we expected to be at this time. So
even with all of that said, it's still projected that we will get at or more than what was budgeted for the total referendum.
Yes, and here, okay, I'm going to get in the weeds just a little bit. The way that math works, we have to know by September 1st. And the tax revenue comes in 3 months delayed. So on September 1st, we would know what money was received through June 30th. So if we hit our target by September 1st, and we say, okay, we're going to shut it down in December, we've hit that target, which is slightly higher than our original budget. I mean, it just rounds it up. At that point, we still have 6 months of revenues coming in. We still have July through December coming in. So if we hit our target and ended a year early, we'll still have 6 more months of revenue. So I'm projecting we will have more money than was originally projected, one way or the other.
Thank you. Go ahead, Dave.
Okay. So back on to the slides. Okay, so this is our familiar chart. Again, everybody, welcome to review it. The red ones are the continuing services contracts, and those are being, you'll see the note in a second, that we're putting out about 13 of those very shortly. I think we're actually out on some of them already. And then the blue ones are the actual RFPs. For selections, those are the ones that exceed the threshold for the continuing contract. So you notice the last one down the bottom is the Belvedere Transportation Facility, and next month, you'll probably start seeing the other transportations because those will come up after this. Next slide. Oops. Ow. Okay.
You got real.
Okay, here we are. Okay, upcoming GMPs. This is where we're going to want to take a pause because as you can see, this is usually where I give you guys the heads up so you know, are you going to have 3,000 pages to review or it's only going to be 500 pages for next month or the month after. And as you'll notice, November, we have a number of GMPs, and December, we have a number of GMPs. And then we're going to hit a little bit of a lull. So our intent, of course, is always to get these GMPs out as quickly as possible because as we're finding out with material shortages and delays in the industry, that the sooner we can get these contractors under contract, the better. No question about it. They can order their materials and get moving. By the way, that was one of the findings that everybody at our symposium talked about. Mr. Gelfand, you're wondering the takeaways. The contractors in general are desperate for us to come up with ways to procure materials before we get a GMP. And we're working on those. There's a number of contractors and a lot of our own people that we're working on trying to come up with ways to procure materials a year before we're even going to take the GMP or several months before we're going to get the GMP because we have a project that we get under contract and then we're going to sit here and wait for our critical items, generators, HVAC units, the like. So that was one of our findings is try to work around the system. We have a lot of hurdles. There's procurement hurdles that payment. It's knowing what to buy so far in advance because a lot of times we don't actually have the design finalized. So Michael,
Michael, go ahead. Question.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent idea. It's somewhat, harkens back to when the district switched and started to obtain insurance. Is there, and the downside, of course, is that this shifts some of the risk back to the district.
It does.
Is there any thought of working with some of the other districts in the state and creating a type of a formal or informal cooperative, if you would, for bidding for materials and components, as well as arrange, as all the items that we need to do, transportation, storage, and all of that. I mean, and also it looks like we're looking at almost like a futures market for this.
Yeah. It's an interesting idea because I see your point that's a perfect way of explaining it, that it is truly a futures market. We're trying to bet on getting the things a year in advance when we need them. So it's certainly something we can look into. We do have closer relationships with Miami-Dade and Broward. We have tri-county organizational meetings to kind of catch up with our counterparts. Our maintenance department there's a maintenance group of directors that all talk, probably having the same kinds of conversations. How can they get together in a cooperative to see if there's things to buy? I don't know how well that would work just because everybody runs their operations differently.
But if we're using similar components, and especially if we are purchasing from national and regional, international, national manufacturers, this would seem to make a whole lot of sense on that. I would say that I would want to be careful about not doing something that would inhibit us from contracting with local vendors. I would presume for more customized items that would not work.
I guess Leah, I see your hand. I'll get there in a second. I kind of disagree with that only because of warranty and liability issues. And to me, that's big. I mean, vinyl flooring. So we buy a warehouse worth of vinyl flooring. Okay. We've taken the responsibility now to warehouse it, which there's no warehouse space available. And then we hand that to the contractor to install. And then maybe we didn't warehouse it right, and so, you know, the flooring's nicked and banged up, and maybe it's warped because we didn't do a humidity-controlled building. I mean, to me, that's just one example, where all of a sudden now we have flooring issues in a whole bunch of schools because we wanted to save $10. So, Leah, you had comments. Still there, Leah?
Sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. Mr. Gelfand basically hit on what I was thinking about. And I was just wondering if you had come up with any proposed solutions on how you would store it. And I do understand the issues, as Dave mentioned, the warranties and all those things, but maybe there could be just some selected projects that we know maybe in the future that are going to have some higher costs. Not that we would do it on as an ongoing general basis, but maybe just some specific projects, if it would be worth the savings. I don't know.
Yep.
But did you come up with any solutions for how you would store any of these materials that you would purchase before you got the GMP?
Warehouse.
Oh, go ahead, Barbara.
I just wanted to chime in and just say that what we're looking at for this and what we discussed at the symposium was not really, the focus wasn't to, the primary focus wasn't really just to save money. It was, the primary focus was the supply chain issues or the long lead times on some of these items. So that was really, the goal was to try to have some sort of come up with some
That's why the
avenue for
costs were going to even be higher, because if we're buying the unit, yes, we might save a couple of bucks by buying it a year early, but I still got to have it in a bonded warehouse because we don't actually have warehouse space.
I think the goal was to have it delivered on time.
On time as opposed to
store it somewhere.
And because if you have it delivered to a bonded warehouse, now you're paying shipping to a warehouse, but then you're going to have to pay shipping from the warehouse to the site when it's needed, those kinds of things. So that's where the challenge on the cooperative might be. We don't necessarily, we're always trying to have just in time. But because we have no control over the market, just in time becomes too much of a challenge. So, or not too much of a challenge, but a pretty sizable challenge. But we are still looking at these options. And Leah, as you just mentioned, while the projects that we're working on right now, you know, the ship has sailed. Grove Park, Malaluka, we're struggling. We're going to try to make all sorts of other arrangements. It's the projects next year. We're going to be talking about Pine Grove modernization, Winbrook modernization, West Riviera Elementary modernization. Those are projects right now that we're in the earlier stages of design that we're going to be starting next June. And those are ones that we are seriously pushing on a lot of the specialty equipment or the high-end equipment if there are areas where we can save. We're not going to save on concrete. I can't buy concrete early, but I might be able to buy certain devices, certain units ahead of time. And we're working with our contractors on those. And that's where we've already had several meetings with legal to go through it. You know, how do we change the contract? How do we adjust it? How do we come to you as CORC with a phase 1 on materials where I'm going to ask you, can you please approve this? Can you please recommend approval on this? And we don't even know what it is. We haven't gotten a GMP. We haven't gotten final drawings. How are we all taking faith that the material that we're asking for a year earlier is proper? These are challenges. I mean, it's not, if anybody said it was easy, it's not. It is if I'm going to buy a TV. I can buy a TV ahead of time, and I can be off. I can buy a TV that's not quite right, but it's still satisfactory. And a lot of times the materials that we're buying, HVAC equipment and such, electrical, it's got to be exactly what it's got to be. So there aren't alternatives.
Did the contractors at your symposium, I mean, once we hire the contractor under CM at risk, you could have an arrangement where the contractor goes and puts in orders for the long lead time items, and you're picking up 6 months of time before they need them. But did the contractors have any suggestions for how that might get implemented? Because now they don't have a GMP, yet you're going to pay them to order the HVAC equipment, the windows, the roofing materials, whatever it might be that is that longer lead time, food service equipment. Whatever that list of long lead time items might be, that's 5 months to get. That to me is the biggest challenge because that's all you're really trying to do. You pick up scheduling time. So once the CM is hired, then it would be, okay, get your list of materials together and put the orders in. But most of that stuff's going to require like a 50% deposit.
Sure.
So you got to be able to come up with that money and you're at risk at that point. I mean, maybe the window company goes out of business by the time you need the windows and you've given them 50%. Michael.
What we are doing here is trying to balance risk. And it's not just a risk of price increases. There are numerous types of that. And if we're going to embark on this, we need to educate the board that there are some downsides to this. We may end up with some materials that we don't need, at that point in time because there's been some better product that we need to have. But particularly with the supply line disruptions and folks not having any inventory, it's something we ought to look at, especially since we have extremely tight work schedules, especially over that narrow, really 2-month period during the summer.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Good point. It's a risk. You're absolutely right. We know that.
Okay, sorry. Good. Keep going on your list here.
Okay. Oh, go ahead.
Virginia, go ahead.
I was wondering how the hurricane on the West Coast is going to feed into the availability of some products.
And we have a winner right there. That's even on, and I'm pushing back on my contractors and saying, I don't want to hear about it. We weren't impacted, but they know that anything they're trying to get, even right now, is being scoffed up by people that are working on the West Coast. So I don't know if it's a long-term problem. For me, short-term is 6 months to a year. And for me, that's a whole school. I'm building a whole school in that short term. So it is certainly a problem that I'm concerned about. And there's the good news is the contractors on our bigger projects that are reliant upon starting, having it done by August for the start of school. They're big contractors. They're big companies. They have big resources. And so I'm relying on, one of the reasons we use CMARS, CM at risk contractors, is because they need to bear some of the risk and they need to help us use their resources to get whatever we need from somewhere else. Yes, they may come to us and say it may cost more. They may say, I'm shipping it from North Dakota, not from Georgia, like we had expected.
Isn't that also going to impact the labor that might all be going over to the West Coast?
And labor is, from what I saw a story this morning, labor in general is going to continue to be a problem or be a challenge for our industry. I'm sorry, contractors. I know you guys are challenged, and it looks like it's not getting any better. The market is there for the employees. They have opportunities. So we will continue to struggle. And when that opportunity out on the West Coast is there, that's the number one focus for this state is get those guys back. So yeah, we will suffer labor shortages. Where the good news, like I said, I go back to the same thing. We work with large companies, and these guys that are sitting in the room with us, they have access to additional resources. So while they may not get their A team or their most cost-effective team, they'll get a good team and get the proper vendors on site for us.
But yeah.
The good news that Leanne gave us about the sales tax revenue will be eaten up by these additional costs, I would assume.
Yeah, and that's been budgeted.
Yes.
So yes, it will, but we'll still get all the work done that the sales tax promised.
Yep.
Yeah, there was a meeting, Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, it may have been June or July that we brought some information to CORC that showed how we planned to fill the gap with these rising costs and the various steps that we took. So maybe we can link that back in the meeting and just send them a link to that previous CORC meeting when we had that in the presentation.
Yes, and that was the whole thing of, we knew that a lot of the projects are coming in a little bit higher for any number of different reasons, whether it's labor shortage, delays. We have a project where they're probably going to ask us for additional money to work overtime because they don't have the leverage to say, I need extra days because of material shortages outside of their control. So things like that are those costs that'll crop up.
Yeah, Virginia, I believe that if I remember the number that AECom had done an estimate of like 190 million that we could by the end of the referendum be over our current budgets, and that Leanne had worked out the math and worked out the justification and moving money where it needed to be to cover 200 million in overages. So that was already taken care of.
And that was pre-hurricane.
Yes.
Yeah.
The presentation that we did was on the July 14th CORC meeting, and it's under staff updates. But that's something we're going to continue to monitor. I'm working with Dave and the AECom staff to come up with a tool that I asked for, the Sales Tax Oversight Committee also asked for, to be able to track every project that we move through as we see these increases, to make sure it fits within what we expected it to be, and to know well in advance if we're running into problems. And we're working on that. It's not quite done, but we're working on that tool.
That's right. Jay here is working on that.
Leah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just curious. I just had a quick question. I was just curious whether the new Ozinga facility plant coming here would, have any impact on projects, or how does that work? It would not, or would it?
We're unfamiliar.
Ozinga. It's they basically receive and store shipments of cement here that are then they do ready mix concrete. They supply it for commercial. So I was wondering if it's cement, if that would something like that would assist.
It would. Where's that going at? I hadn't heard of that.
It's located on the Port of Palm Beach's properties, just on the west side of Sky Pass. And it's a new facility here. It'll be fully operational in 2023. If you go over the Sky Pass, you'll see this big blue and white. It looks like it has waves of water painted on the facility that kind of rises up over the Sky Pass, actually.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So
we'll look into it.
I just added a link to the meeting chat.
There's a big article in the Palm Beach.
You should be able to see the website here that Dorothy's sharing.
There was an article in the Palm Beach Post regarding the expansion of concrete sites, and this was highlighted.
Well, that would definitely assist in the lead time issues to get cement to the concrete plants. One of the things that concrete companies are having trouble with is, again, labor. They don't have enough drivers. And so they can't get concrete. I've had a couple of jobs where they shorted the job concrete because they said, I'm sorry, we're out of drivers. We can't get you more concrete today.
Okay.
So anyway, go ahead, Dave.
Okay, I'm going to get back. Okay, so ironically, that discussion that we just had was not the discussion that I actually meant to have. So I'm going to stay on this slide because the discussion I needed to have was more about timing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Normally we have our meetings, and I'm going to get into the weeds on this, but normally we have our CORC meeting 6 days before the board meeting. So right now, this Thursday, we have our CORC meeting. Next Wednesday is the board meeting for all the items that we're discussing now and you're recommending approval and such. Next month, the board meeting is on November 30th. The Wednesday, November 30th, which would put us on Thanksgiving, be our CORC meeting. And I'm not volunteering any of you to attend CORC next month. So it causes us a challenge because I can't publicize our CORC items, which mimic those that go on the board. I can't publicize them before the board items are publicized, and they are not publicized until November 18th. Long and short, the alternatives that we have for next month for the November CORC meeting would be literally the day before the board meeting, November 29th, Tuesday, November 29th, which really doesn't leave us a lot of time. And the challenge with November 29th for CORC is that, do you know when the December CORC meeting is? The following Thursday, December 8th. Because in the month of December, the board meeting is earlier because of the winter break, the winter holiday break. So I could have a CORC meeting on November 29th and then a board meeting on the 30th and a CORC meeting literally the immediate Thursday after. It really does not serve all of you. And as I've worked with my team looking at this list, now I finally get to why I leave this on the list. Those items that are on November, some of those, if we chose not to meet in the month of November, we had no construction items for the month of November, we would have items in the month of December. We would meet on December 8th for CORC, and then the board would meet on the 4th, I think, would be the board meeting. The good news, we don't think we're going to try to double up. It's not like I'm going to take all the November ones and all the December ones and jam them all into December. There's a likelihood that some of the December ones are going to kind of shuffle into January. We don't want them to, but there's likely that we might get there. So my recommendation, but it's just a recommendation, would be that we skip the month of November CORC meeting, presuming that we're even allowed to. I don't, from a legal perspective.
I'm not sure that the policy would allow, I mean, if you're going to have items that would require the policy, as I understand it, items that go to the board that come under the purview of CORC have to go to CORC. I don't know that I wouldn't believe, and I don't believe there's authority for anyone on staff to waive the policy. The board is the only one that could waive a policy requirement.
Okay. So we're still kind of up in the air. The question is, do we have a meeting on November 29th and may or may not even have any items to discuss? Because if we don't have anything that's ready to go on the November 30th board meeting.
Well, that would be it. If you don't present any construction at the November board meeting, then we wouldn't have to have a November CORC meeting. But if you plan to take anything construction related that CORC would review to the November board meeting, then sometime in November, we have to review it as a group.
And again, this is why this is more of an open discussion, but I'm kind of trying to put out that issue. And I know that there's a lady sitting 2 seats to my right who will say, all the rest of us can say, yeah, we have no items, but does purchasing have a PC1 item that will go in the month of November? And does it need to go before CORC?
And then a week later, it would go too.
My recommendation would be a PC item would have to go before CORC. It's the policy requires it.
And we also would have the design for Roosevelt Community Middle School, the FCA, but that could.
Well, that's the thing. That's having to go. That could go to.
It's a week later.
A week later.
Yeah.
That's why I was saying those kinds of items. And I've asked the SPAs on their projects, like are there change orders that we see coming up that aren't going to get that they could wait until the December 8th, December 14th, and they all say, yeah, there's no real delays on our construction items because they're literally between the board meetings. There's 2 weeks, so I'm putting it out there. We can meet. We can meet and have a formal meeting and only discuss the PC1 item.
Well, I can double check to make sure that I wouldn't want anyone to fall out of being approved status and not be able to submit a proposal. So I would just need to confirm that we don't have anybody in that
okay
window.
Virginia?
Is it possible to meet the week before Thanksgiving if that should come up?
I can't publicize anything before the board publication. And the board publication isn't going out until the Friday before Thanksgiving, November 18th, I think is the date. Yeah, Friday, November 18th. The board items will be posted publicly on that Friday. I can't have a CORC meeting. I have to publicize mine at least a week as well. And that would mean I'd have to publicize mine in early November that are items that have to go on the board. I can't do that. So that's why my only alternative really is based on the board meeting is I can only do the November 29th date as the only alternative to meet in November. And then we would literally meet the next week, December 8th. I think that's the right date.
Well, if you kicked everything to the December meeting, except possibly PC1, we can meet virtually. So, you know, you can be in the Bahamas for Thanksgiving and just log in and we vote on PC1 and we have a very, very short meeting just to resolve that issue. But yet the major discussion items of, you know, GMPs and things, we would hold for a week later at the December meeting.
And what if
You're
we don't have a
suggesting things.
quorum? What if there's no quorum? Then what happens? I'm talking to the attorney. We can't have a meeting.
Well, you can't have a meeting. You can't have a voting meeting.
So, I mean, that's one way of doing it. There's no quorum.
There's no quorum because does it still go to the board?
But yeah, I mean, I guess PC1 has to be reviewed by CORC? Yeah. PC1 is the continuing contractors.
No,
list?
pre-qualification.
The pre-qual, right, the pre-qual, okay.
And Michael, you ask a good question is what happens to an item that is set up that CORC doesn't get a chance to vote on it? I believe the answer is, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, I think it just goes without recommendation.
Right.
And I think that it's the kind of thing where we would have to tell the board and the board chair to accentuate the fact that this didn't go before the CORC for CORC
I
oversight.
think didn't we have that happen once
Okay.
during the pandemic?
Well,
We did.
even when Joe Sanchez was in this chair, I mean, we had some things during the previous times that just couldn't wait for a CORC meeting. And what happened is that it was sent out individually to all the CORC members. And then we could call or write to staff. We couldn't write to other CORC members about any comments we had. And we could also get to our board members for those issues if we had heartburn about it and wanted them to know about reasons to not approve it. So I know we've had before, and I don't know if it went against any policy of stuff that went right to the board without going to CORC.
Yeah, and we've done it since I've been here once. And
I know I wouldn't have any heartburn over PC1, which is the pre-qualification list that we usually breeze over most of the time, you know, going to the board for renewal of people without our review. If that,
I can't recommend to staff that they don't follow the policy.
right, I don't know, I understand that. But we'll have to check the policy, I guess, to make sure that stuff has to go to CORC. Because I don't know if that's really somehow written.
Right, certainly.
So do we have any comments or preference for what we want to do
I
here?
don't have a problem with any special meetings like on the November 29th and then having to meet again quickly in December. This is Leah. I don't have a problem with it. So maybe we could just find out who has a problem, who doesn't, so we can then, you know, process of elimination, figure out what's next.
Yeah, I can make both. Why don't we poll? Lou, can you make 29th and December, 8th? Yes, okay, Michael Gelfand?
I'm looking at my calendar now.
Okay.
The 27th,
29th.
29th, currently is okay. The 7th is,
No, the 8th. That was our already scheduled CORC meeting.
all right, no, the 8th, I have a conflict and I don't have an invite for the 8th. I have one.
You wouldn't have it yet, I don't believe.
Alrighty. I have one for the 15th though, that I'm looking at.
No, we don't need that.
Alrighty.
Oh, what do you have? A CORC meeting for the 15th?
Yep.
December?
No,
He's got-
delete that one.
That's one of those rogue ones.
That's one that got out by mistake
Yeah.
when Susan was still here.
And what about November 17th? Is that a rogue one also?
Well, that's the one that we will not be able to hold the November 17th one because I won't be able to publicize in advance for that. So we can't meet on that. So if you want to delete that one from your calendar, that's fine. If we so discuss and y'all think we want to do the November 29th, we can send out a separate invite. for
Right.
that.
Sam Shannon, you okay for 29th November? Yes, okay. Frank Simon, okay for November 29th, short meeting?
What day of the week is that?
Tuesday.
Tuesday,
It's a Thursday. I'm okay.
okay? Leah, you said you're okay. Virginia?
Well, I will try to make it, but I would prefer if you not have to have a November meeting.
Well, the only way we would do a November meeting is for anything that just can't wait. It wouldn't be what I call something more critical, like a series of GMPs.
Right.
So I'm seeing that as being a very quick meeting. We don't even need to do staff follow-up at that point. We'll get all of that at the December meeting. It'll literally be open the meeting, do what we have to vote, close the meeting.
That's right.
15 minutes, maybe 10.
Well, that's not worth getting up at 5 a.m. for me.
Oh, you're still in Vancouver. Okay.
Yes.
I agree with that. Okay, so you're a maybe. Tradrick, you still on?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, could you do November 29th?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Sounds like we might get a quorum. We don't know Tom Berger, but you can do that later.
Oh, Ken's here.
Ken, yeah, I'm sorry.
I'm okay.
Okay, good.
Oh, when did you show up?
Did I get everybody?
Did you check Bill?
Sorry. Okay, Mike Wita, November 29th?
I'm here, yes.
All right, good.
All right.
Well, let's, for now, plan a
And-
short meeting.
I will just ask in advance, if in case there is a meeting and I cannot make it, to ask for an excused
Yes,
absence.
that's fine. That'll be granted. These are extraordinary circumstances, so yes.
Excellent. And I thank everybody for this consideration. I don't like ever having to do that. I like keeping everything standard in a schedule. But I do appreciate everybody, your consideration on this one, so.
Okay, so for now, for everybody's calendar, and Dorothy will send out corrections, we're going to be meeting normal time, November 29th, and then normal time, December 8th, which was already scheduled.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, so
Continue.
back to so you see there, the rest of the stuff is really, is all wrote. It's a lot of the same stuff I do every month. But, and again, I always say to you guys, if you want to take a look, this is posted online and gives you, go ahead, Dorothy, an opportunity to see the activities. You can see we've got a design, we've got RFPs for, the design services for Roosevelt Middle, possibly in November, December. We've got Inlet Grove selection was, I believe, was yesterday, and I think North Tech Riviera Beach Prep is this
Today.
afternoon.
yeah, 1 o'clock.
So we are moving forward on those. There you go, 13 Form As. That's our internal document to say we're doing our continuing services contract with the architects. So we've got a whole slew of projects. And then even those, there's even more because we've got some other projects on that are going out to our architects under the continuing contracts through minor projects. Dorothy is our own cottage industry. Dorothy has minor projects and most of what you're seeing here is all the major projects. So she keeps them busy as well.
Simon raised his hand.
Oh, yes, Frank.
Frank,
Roosevelt is also the construction manager's been selected.
Usually, I think the couple weeks after.
It's been done
Usually a
already.
2-week gap between the two.
Yesterday.
it was yesterday.
Oh, yesterday was? I didn't know, I thought you, in general, I didn't realize.
No, he meant yesterday was the CM selection for
Yeah.
Roosevelt.
Yeah, yes.
Okay. All right, keep going.
Yeah, you can see down the bottom, Belvedere Transportation this month, and Transportation North, South, and West Central will all be going out next month. A lot of design work to go on. George Perez is upstairs, probably pulling his hair out, keeping these things all moving forward. There's a lot of work, just keeping them on track. Okay, next. I'm going to slide right past most of these slides because these are the facility renewals. You'll see a couple of the slides have some pretty interesting work going on there. Go ahead. Olympic Heights restrooms, Pahokee L finishing up, Santa Lucia's High School, and then and one of Dorothy's favorites, Dwyer High School. It's keeping it going. Some of the pics of the activities that are going on at our schools. You can see when they get the restrooms done before they put the stations in. There's the bottom picture on the left there. That's not how it's going to be left. We're not going to make everybody use the toilets together.
So we're renovating bathrooms now during school time?
Yeah, we're closing down a bathroom at a time.
All right, and how has that been going with capacity? Not a problem?
It's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fine. It's worked at a lot of our schools, all the way high schools and middles, all the way down to L's. That we don't truly have any problems with those. As I said, most of the principals are incredibly accommodating in the fact that they'll take a little inconvenience. They're used to inconvenience. That's what it is to be a principal. Every day is an inconvenience on some level. So when they see that, but they're going to get a great product at the end, they're like, yeah, we'll work it. That's why a lot of them allow us to work during the school year. They'll give us 3 or 4 or 5 classrooms and say, go ahead, work in that area, make all the noise and dirt and whatnot. I've got the rest of the operations, and you'll give me those classrooms in 6 weeks, and I'll give you another 3, 4, 5, and we keep going. So
what it means is that the building code oversizes toilet rooms. They make us put more in than we actually have to have.
Yeah.
Have we thought of engaging some of the students and giving them hard hats and hammers and cutting down the labor cost?
We were going to do a raffle at Dwyer when they were doing all of the TikTok things for destroying restrooms at schools. Yeah, we were going to have, kind of a fundraiser at Dwyer, and whoever spent the most money, we would allow them go in and destroy one of the bathrooms.
That would have been fun.
Shut the water off first.
Yeah, people didn't hear anything. Risk management, nothing like that happened.
Place the valves first.
Okay, so Triple O High School is well on its way. Sorry, I had Angel a little bit busy because I think I mentioned to you guys last month that I was going to try to have in the next couple months have Angel do some more detailed interior photos of the high school as it's really starting to take shape. But I kind of had him distracted. There was a symposium that he was kind of helping lead. So I will promise to next month or thereabouts get that a more detailed run. Go ahead, moving on.
Why do we do roofing at dugouts? Okay. I did them at Roger Dean Stadium and just made them concrete roofs with an elastomer paint. No roof.
Yeah. So there you can see the site improvement. Still looks like a dirt mound, but in fact the parking lot's all organized, laid out. It's our middle school. Oh, and by the way, the high school and the middle school. If you keep track of our board items, I think this coming board meeting there will be discussions on naming both of those, at least one of them, perhaps both. So I know that both of the naming committees are well on their way. That there are suggestions. I think the middle school might be the one that's coming up at this board meeting.
Frank's hand is raised. I don't know if that was from before.
Frank, you still have your hand up or just haven't removed it? Okay, guess not.
Okay.
Keep going.
Okay. So you can see, tilt wall panels completed on building 3. I think we're pretty well established. Go ahead and just show the pictures. You can see that's the circle at Sunset Palms Elementary. And directly on the left-hand side is the tilt for the main building 1. Okay, next slide.
Is the contractor required to shut down for noise when it's testing time at the elementary school?
I think there's an understanding that we certainly would accommodate that if necessary.
Okay.
But no, there's not anything formal. And if the contractor's listening, no, you're not being given authorization to stop work. No.
Yeah, they want a change order for that.
Yeah, exactly.
Owner
I'm not
delay.
authorizing
Owner
that,
delay.
right? So no, the expectation is that they continue working through. We may have to delay activities during a particularly noisy point for some period until after 3, but they're not being asked to stop working in areas that, on this project.
Okay, well, you'd hear from the principal if that became a problem.
She's been quite accommodating in this project. It's a good workout. All right, a couple of the other ones. I think I mentioned to you guys that we haven't really shown you a whole heck of a lot on Delray Full Service, but there's the picture on the right is the main new building, the 20,000 square foot building under construction. And I know it's hard to see, but if you can follow me on the picture on the bottom left, you see the white buildings in the middle, those are actually modulars. Those are modular classrooms right in the center, right there. Those are the modular classrooms we've added in there. The building to the right of it with the vaulted ceiling, that's the historic gymnasium. That's well underway on renovations. And then the building just to the left of the portables, now that's Village Academy, that's a 3-story. That right there is the 2-story new construction project that we're working on. So if you're familiar with the site, the bottom 3 buildings at the bottom of the page, that's building 1, 2, and 12. Those are more historically significant facilities that they're currently operating. You referred to as the Delray Full Service. Next. Okay, Del Prado, Joel Campbell, our resident expert at core expansions. He just finished Citrus Cove and is moving on this. And that one's just got started, so it's just getting into the clearing it out, getting moving. Grove Park. Of course, I'm sure you yourself would love to see it further along, as would Judd Adams, our SPA on this.
I passed it this morning and nothing vertical except the job fence.
Yeah, we've got our, I think they've got their casting beds in place. Foundations are all poured, footings are all poured, but no panels yet have been poured. That's because, and for those of you we were talking about the concrete shortages, these guys would probably like to pour 4 days a week if they could. They now are set on a schedule for only 2 days a week. They can only do 2 pours and they have to start them at 3 a.m. So we're challenged on that. And if you miss a pour, it's, the hurricane came through and they missed the pour because of the hurricane. Well, there's no makeups. It's move along. You'll get back on for next week. So we're quite short on our concrete. So we're going to have some serious discussions about how they recover on this one and on Malibu. You'll see next.
Well, we have tight schedules whenever we build a school anyway.
Yeah.
What I think we're going to have to start thinking about is not making an opening date when we get to certain points, because material shortages aren't going to stop. And so, if this was meant to open, August of 2023?
Yes.
That's, wow. I don't see that happening. And if we miss that date, then you're probably not opening until Christmas break.
We'll see.
Yeah.
I understand. It's always in the back of each of our minds. There are people that aren't sleeping at night because of this. So, and it's only October. So yeah, I do understand and appreciate that, but, we're not giving up yet. We're focused on recovery. Because again, the contractors that we have at Grove Park and Malaluka, they know the risk.
Oh,
They are large contractors. They have a lot of resources. They have the ability to pull rabbits out of hats. And a lot of the ones we work with, those gentlemen that are in the room with us, they do have that capacity and have shown the ability to do that before. So we're going to see.
Oh, yeah. I'm not throwing the flag in yet. I'm just saying that needs to be the thought process.
But we're getting there. So,
Michael Gelfand.
Is there a futures market in concrete? Seriously.
It's not just concrete.
It's the raw materials that
It's electrical switchgear. It's HVAC equipment. It's flooring. If you ordered impact windows for your house, it's a 32-week lead time.
Wow. Crazy.
Yeah, and we're working all sorts of different things of buying units that are on the shelf and retrofitting them with for additional costs while we wait for the item that we really want. That is 32, 56 weeks out kind of thing. So our contractors are quite resourceful and working on all sorts of different avenues to try to make it work, get the facilities up and running. So as you can see, it's Grove Park is relatively uneventful. I'll say it that way. Malaluka, not much different. Same kind of thing. We've got a couple of buildings that remain, and foundations have been poured. And I know James has got the casting beds poured on that site. So slowly coming. West Tech.
Question on casting beds first. I think I've asked this before. We throw that concrete away?
Yeah. I think they use it for aggregate or things like that.
I mean, with the shortage of concrete and how hard it is to get concrete, we need to come up with another method that we're not putting concrete down to pour concrete on top of, to stand the concrete up and then throw the other concrete away. I don't know what that solution is, but I mean, that just seems like a whole waste of what the commodity that's in short supply.
Right. And it's built into the cost. I mean, so when you're looking at the cost of tilt panel versus the cost of CMU block, the labor to install CMU block eats away all of that cost for the casting beds and such, some of the throwaway items on it. Yeah. Okay. Certainly, it's a balance.
Well, that concrete is recycled for crushed rock.
That's what
Well,
it's
yeah.
We use it for.
I agree it's not getting just tossed away, but you could also use shell rock instead of crushed concrete. So anyway.
So if they can buy less shell rock, they have aggregate.
True.
West Tech. West Tech was it was a project that seems like a facility renewal, but it was actually I guess a quasi modernization. We basically went through the entire building and left the shell and went section by section of the campus. And state construction worked on this project and made a lot of improvements to the facility to the point where it is now a shining star in the Glades region. It's much nicer, much newer. Even the exterior, I put that photo on there because you look at it and go, split face block? Yeah, but it's been cleaned, it's been sealed, it is fresh, it's new. When you see it from the road, you realize that's not the dingy old facility that we remember it to be. So it really has been quite a turnaround at that site. And that was a great project. So
is all the square footage, I think they have like 90,000 square feet there. Is all of that dedicated to programs?
It is.
It is. Oh,
well, all of it except for the maintenance. We have Building 3 has our maintenance shop out there.
Well, that's fine.
Yeah. And they actually, one of the programs is in fact the migrant program. So it's not an actual adult educational training program.
Yeah, my
But
thought
they do
was,
have it's an academic and a community-based program.
I was just verifying that we didn't modernize all that space and now only half the space is being used for programs and classes.
Oh, no, every square foot is being utilized.
Good.
Between the adult ed and because we have a construction academy out there. Between the adult ed and the construction, the K-12 components, they're challenged for spaces. Adult ed would like to run more programs during the day. They don't, because we have kids out there. So we're always looking to work with the school to see what they want to, how they want to amend it. And I mean, many of you probably heard out at West Tech, we redid the parking lot, and you all remember because we've come back with change order after change order after change order, where we keep getting a little bit more money that we can do a little bit more of the parking lot. Because we have a CDL program out there. It is so incredibly successful. There's like 90 students in a class, and they're all loaded up, and there's a waiting list to get on the classes.
Wow.
And they graduate classes and they run another one. So it's quite a successful. They got 2 trucks out there, 2 trucks strictly for that CDL program. So again, putting this facility to good use. It's back to, I don't want to say it's back to the way it used to be, but there was a time, and I was told that West Tech was incredibly vibrant, was such a huge part of that community, and it's getting back to being that way now. At night, it's a madhouse. There's a lot of cars. There's a lot of people taking classes and doing training there. So we're getting back to being a full facility out there.
Do they have a school district kind of recruiter to place those 90 students per class in truck driving jobs?
I would venture that the adult ed program has that.
Well, I think they probably got a waiting list of trucking companies waiting at the door.
Well, I was going to say, I was probably not too hard for trucking these days.
Yeah.
There's concrete companies that could probably use it.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah.
So that's it for me, but thanks for allowing me to.
All right. Any questions for Dave? Okay, we're moving on. We're down to 501. Every year this comes up, and it's based on our CORC policy where the chair position is term limited. That's been held by me for a while, and it's been term limited. So CORC has to vote whether they want to ask the board for a waiver of that term limit requirement, and that has to be done 60 days prior to the election of chair and vice chair, which is done at the end of our January meeting. So this is on the agenda today for consideration by CORC as to whether they want that consideration, not necessarily that, I get reelected, but it just allows the chair position to, for me to be considered for chair again when the election comes up.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
There's a first and a second and a third. Any discussion, comments?
Cut his
All right,
salary by 50%.
What, Michael?
Cut his salary by 50%.
I was gonna offer the salary gratis. Yeah, I'll be bold. Dorothy, go ahead, poll list, please.
All right, Bill Hukill,
Yes.
David Porter,
Yes.
Frank Simon,
Yes.
John Cheshire. Oh,
Nope.
sorry about that. Ken Lassiter,
Yes.
Leah Gaines,
Yes.
Lou Doctor. Looking for the okay.
Thumbs up.
Phil Gelfand,
Yes.
Mike Guida,
Yes.
Sam Shannon,
Yes.
Tradrick,
Yes.
and Virginia.
An emphatic yes.
There was a pause there where she was gonna say, nah.
Never mind.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to the next item, approval of minutes. Virginia, any changes?
Very good minutes.
Okay, anyone else with minutes issues? All right, minutes are accepted.
Oh, Frank has
No, he's had it up for a while.
He went off.
just raised.
Frank, you got a comment? We're still seeing your hand up, Frank.
The motion that was just made should be chairman and vice chairman, shouldn't it?
No, it's not to re-elect at this point. The board policy requires that in order to get around the term limits for the chair position, that
Just chair? I thought it was
it's just the
vice
chair. Yeah, it
also.
wasn't chair and vice chair. No. There's no term limit on a vice chair. It's only for the chair position, and that's
Okay,
why the board
thank you.
has to approve the waiver.
So Virginia could be the chair forever?
There's
Can we
no,
nominate it as such?
so the committee has to vote that in. Yes.
Yes.
All right, we're down to the end. Anything by anyone for anything? And anything for the next meeting that we want specifically brought up? And our next meeting will then be the 29th, but most likely a short one.
So happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Yes.
Yes.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Point. Thank you.
And we are done. We are adjourned. Thank you.
All right, have a great day, everyone.
Take care.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Yes.
And I'll be down here.
Right, how are you? You want to hear?
Yeah.